Howdy. All right. Great class last night. I really love the questions and the discussion y'all are having. You're doing fantastic. Thank you for all the work. So let's dig into this real quick. We looked at this interactive music blueprint last night. It should be defaulting to this, the music interactive system blueprint, which is in here. If you remember, click on anything in the world outliner, you push F, it fast forwards where it is. If it's not in there, here's how you can find it. Let's say that somehow your version didn't have this in there. No problem. Go third person BP. This is in your root folder. Then go to blueprints. Then go to music interactive system blueprint. You can just drag it in. Doesn't matter where it is, it's not going to appear in the game. But once it's in the level, when you push play, everything inside of it becomes activated. So I'm not going to go completely over this because it's a lot of information. But just to remember, up here, you're setting up Quartz, you're setting up your time signature, you're setting up your tempo, and your what you're quantizing to, as far as if you're doing bars, you're doing beats, that whole thing. This top one over here, quantization values, you scroll down to the events and logging, or the counting and logging. This is the one that's allowing us to pick any of them right there. And just have this minimized for visual sake. And then, so we're setting up our tempo, or BPM, or time signature. We're setting up then all the tiers that we're doing. We're saying tier 1 is set up and has a volume of 1. Tier 2 is set up a volume of 0. And then tier 3 is set up also to a volume of 0. Once all those are set up, it's going to say, okay, all music is queued right there. And one time we're going to start the clock, so it's all matching up with the same clock, which again is set up over here. Just missed it. Right here. That clock. Cool. And then these quant bar 2 and 1, right here, quant bar 1 tier, quant bar 2 tier. If we want to, you go quant beat. These are custom events down here, which is going through and it's saying, all right, this has happened. You've triggered something. So now it's going to say, okay, whenever the A and B are flip-flop, it goes A, B, A, B. A is always first, B second. All this is doing is saying, hey, is this the first or second time you've done this? If it's the first time, you're going to open up this gate, which allows that little animating ball to go through and turn on this. The play rate, this is going to increase the volume. Volume is 0. It's going to do a nice little volume. It's not linear. It's kind of got a little shape to it up to full volume. And that's if it's doing it the first time. If you do it again, oh no, it's not A, it's B, it's false. It's going to go down here and it's going to reverse this line. It's going to reverse it from here all the way down, back down to 0. That's how we're turning up or turning down the volume. And then we're setting this new volume and saying, okay, set it. So last night we talked about variables, and real fast, to do a variable, I'm just going to do the node right now. Normally, sorry for so much coughing. Normally you can just go through here and you can be like, all right, so I'm going to put my sound here, and there it is, whatever it is. But we can also just click off here and just let go, and it's going to give you a prompt. You can say promote to variable, and there's your variable. It's not going to have a default value until you compile it. So compile it. Now it has a default value. And you see it's here under our variables, which might be collapsed. You might have to do this. You can always drag in any variable you want into your event graph. And it gives you two options. You can get it, which makes another one of these guys, or you can set it, which means, okay, now I'm going to put this here and change. It was set to whatever this is, but now I can make it something new. And that's all these set volumes are doing over here. It's saying, hey, your volume is now going to be set to this new value, which is coming out of here. And then we're doing a print string to say, hey, I did this. Yay, good. So the nice thing is, with these variables, they're all public, with the eyeball being open, which means if you go through, pop this here, if you have the Music Interactive System Blueprint selected under Details, you will see this. And this is where you should work, from the Details panel when you can see the screen. You have your tempo, your beats per minute, num beats, and you have your stems here. You're going to have 3 instead of 4. And then your number of bars looping back, which is super important. We talked about this last night in class. If you do 9, but yet you have 8, there's a bar of emptiness there. If you do 6, and yet you have 8, it's going to re-trigger before it's actually ready and begin to overlap. You don't want either situation. So last little thing here is if I go to, where did I put the music here? Remember I just showed you this example where if you have bass or drums, and you have drums and bass, bass, and guitar, drums, bass, guitar, and vocals, then you're going to have more instances of drums and bass and guitar. It's going to get louder and louder and louder. So instead, you want to have unique instruments for each tier. I think it was Michael, maybe Andrew asked a really good question last night. Can I have tons of things in my tiers as long as they're not duplicates in the other tiers? Absolutely you can. You just have to be careful and not have duplicates. Andrew, I know, talked about, well, what if I had like a violin, then I had other violins harmonizing? Perfectly okay. You can even do something where like you have solo violin and then a whole violin section for the other tier. That's totally fine. You just want to avoid something like this where it's going to start artificially stacking on itself because it's just going to get louder and louder and louder. We want the music to expand and become more full, not get really weirdly loud. Other thing to make sure is that your duration is exactly the same. Mine 19.2, a bunch of zeros, 1. 19.2, a bunch of zeros, 1. Same thing there, same thing there, same thing there. If you look over here, I didn't do this in class yesterday, but this one's different. I intentionally made one that's wrong. It's at the wrong tempo. So for right now, I'm just going to pop that in. I'm going to replace that here. So now all these other ones are at 100. And this guitar is the wrong tempo. Walk over here, get the first one going, and the second one. And the guitar. You hear what's going on. So you have to be very, very surgical. All your stems have to be the same length, obviously the same tempo. One other little like warning is avoid really weird changing meters. If you can mathematically make it work out to where at the end of your loop it's going to be like it was at 1, coming back to the bar of 1. If you can do that, great. But you might have to be really careful about it because Quartz is not going to know. It's not going to know to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. It's not going to know to change that. It will do odd meters for you, 7, 8, something like that, 9, 3, or whatever it is. Not 9, 3, but like 9, 8. You have these bottom increments you can do as far as a half note, quarter note, eighth note, 16th note, 32nd, getting the beat. From there, you're just going to have to be restricted. So you can put the top number anything you want, but the bottom number, these are what you can use. So avoid that. Avoid accelerandos and retardandos because that's going to throw everything off too. Quartz doesn't know to look for that. So it's just going to be marching at the same tempo, at its own drum the whole time, and it's going to ignore those changes for you. One other thing I did not include last night. You have cheats. You have hotkeys, 3 and 2. So I can go into this. I don't have one for... No, I do. I have one for 1. So you can just push play and push 1. And then push 2. And push 3. I didn't update that music, so it's out of tempo there. But you get the idea. So yeah, in yours, you can totally walk through the trigger volumes if you want, or if you want some real quick testing, I have these hotkeys in your 1, 2, and 3 will automatically fire off the music. So have fun, be creative. You have complete free reign on the style, genre, vibe that you want to go for, the instrumentation you want to use. You just have to remember that slide I talked about where whatever changes need to be apparent to the player right when something happens. Imagine you're playing a game and you get like a bonus mode or whatever. Well, if the music has 15 bars of rest when that bonus mode is activated, it's not going to make much difference to the player. So be mindful about all the changes you're making, that it will be truly interactive going from one tier to the other, and that there's a tangible difference. Instruments getting thicker, the orchestration getting thicker, more things playing, perhaps going from chord notes, also they're playing eighth notes. There's all kinds of little tricks you can do to make it feel dynamic. Have fun. Next week we will look at the sound design and sound recreate that y'all are doing. Those will be due, so we'll review those. I'm super excited about what we're making there, and we'll do a check-in for this, and I'll show some additional music production techniques for games. Alrighty, that's it. Take care.